Glamour.
Grit. Glamour.
Grit. Glamour. Grit.
Okay, so normally we have a lot of fun on here. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but I do want to talk about something I feel is very important. Well, it's just a good reminder for everyone. Please brush up on your CPR knowledge. To make this easy, Texas Health has a website with a very fun video with a bossy coach that breaks down the CPR process and reminds us that hands-only CPR is simple to learn and easy to do. It might be the first line of care you can provide somebody, even a child, during what could be the scariest situation. No one ever thinks it could happen to them or their family until it does. That's why Texas Health is asking all of North Texans and everyone who listens to be a braver lifesaver. Check out the videos today at braverlifesaver.com.
You guys, if you haven't yet, make sure you get on La Pulga Tequila. We are so proud of it. It's here in Fort Worth, Texas, but it's created in the highlands of Jalisco, Mexico. It is my favorite tequila. It is 100% agave, meaning it's made with 3 ingredients: agave, water, and yeast. That's it. You don't need all the other junk. So many other tequilas add all this other stuff, and that's why you feel so sick the next day. La Pulga is easy, it's smooth, and it tastes the best. Not only that, but listen to this. Mexican rock music is played to agitate the yeast, so the party starts before the tequila even hits the bottle. That's the kind of party I want. La Pulga Tequila. It's smooth, it's natural, it's delicious. Try it today if you haven't yet. You'll thank me later.
The Fort Worth Film Collaborative is a film workforce development certification program to address the growing need for trained film industry crew in the greater Fort Worth area. The one-of-a-kind curriculum will provide students a pathway to employment in the film industry. In August 2023, the Fort Worth Film Commission and Tarrant County College, in partnership with 101 Studios, launched the program, which will foster local talent and build a robust film workforce in Fort Worth and Tarrant County. Tarrant County College will serve as an educational backbone of the Fort Worth Film Collaborative. Leveraging their state-of-the-art facilities and experienced faculty, the college will provide a platform for students to gain an understanding of the film industry and develop practical skills essential for success in the film industry. The Fort Worth Film Commission and Tarrant County College also worked with several local entities on this project, including Red Productions, Out of Order Studios, MPS Studios, and Paravision. Local industry experts contributed to the curriculum with instructional videos, including a gaffer, location manager, professionals in key departments, including hair and makeup, accounting, key grip, and camera. To learn how you can take part in the program, please visit tccd.college/film. For more information on the Fort Worth Film Commission, visit fortworth.com/film.
Welcome back to the Glamour Grit. It is Monday, our favorite day of the week.
Celebrity Monday.
And I know you especially are losing your mind right now.
Losing.
Because
like actually dying.
You've been obsessed with this person for over a decade. I mean, it's just, there's so many. Let me just get into a little bit about who she is that we have today. She's an actress, both starred and scripted and non-scripted. She's a host. She's a TV personality, philanthropist, entrepreneur, designer, podcaster, YouTuber, author, and of course, a real housewife. And it's an honor to have her here with us today. So let's just bring her right in because we've got so much to talk about. We're just so excited for it. So please, let's welcome Heather Dubrow.
Yay! Hi, guys.
Hi, we're so honored to have you on.
So I was just saying before we started, I am so excited to be here. Sainty, you and I have not seen each other in I think we were saying it's like a decade. We met at Chanel, as all good relationships start.
Of course. That's when you know true friendship that
That's
starts
a fairy
at
tale.
Chanel. And I remember, Heather, I don't know if you remember this. I bet you probably do because you're just so brilliant. You told me the best advice because I had just gotten the FX series Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll with Dennis Leary. And I just started filming it. And you said to me, Sainty, the one advice I could always give you, and my mom and I talk about this all the time, always say yes.
Yeah.
Just always say yes. And look, here we are now, and you're saying yes to our podcast. And I appreciate it.
Because I think especially when you're young, first of all, I don't know why my camera's doing this zoomy thing. I apologize. Please don't get dizzy. But I think that especially when you're younger in your career in Hollywood, a lot, because I remember doing this too. I remember sitting back and being like, well, if I don't do this, I'll do this. Or if I did that, you know what? You just have to keep working. Work begets work. Meetings beget meetings. You just say yes. You just keep moving forward and you never know.
So I have a question because I'm an actor, as you know, and you were literally headlining, starring on television, like the pinnacle, like the dream of what every actor wants to be doing in television. You had it going on.
Yeah.
And then you transitioned to unscripted. How was that transition? Were your reps, because back then it was like, I feel like, you know, scripted actors weren't doing reality and they weren't really kind of overcrossing in any way. Was that something you had to like fight for yourself to be like, guys, I need to do this? Or like, how did that come about? And was your team apprehensive at first to try to, keep you in the scripted world?
No, can we curse here or no?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
It was a fucking disaster. So this is what happened. So my last series regular gig was on a show called That's Life. It was a big CBS show about an Italian family. It was me, Paul Sorvino, Ellen Burstyn,
Kevin Dillon, right?
Kevin Dillon, Debbie
Yep.
Mazur, like this critically acclaimed, went for a couple of seasons. It gets canceled. And I'm trying to figure out my next step. In the meantime, I've put off having a family for so long, as a lot of actors do, because you're scared at that time. Well, if I'm pregnant, no one's going to hire me, and all that kind of. So, and we had fertility issues and whatever. So we did IVF. So literally, my show gets canceled, and within 6 months, like I'm going through pilot season while I'm doing IVF.
Oh my gosh.
Because that's how insane we all are. And so I end up getting pregnant with twins, and I had 4 kids in 7 years. We ended up moving down to Orange County because we were going back and forth because my husband's practice was in Orange County and we were living in LA. So I had a show picked up, we'd go up to LA. I had a show canceled. So we were kind of just doing this back and forth thing. And after even I had the twins, I was doing pilots. I would go do a pilot for a couple weeks and then it wouldn't get picked up. And I'd be like, okay, I'll go back to being a mom. It was just a very strange time, especially because at that time, you couldn't make your own content. There was no social media. There were no streamers. If you were out, you were just so out. And everyone that's ever been in this business understands how awful it is to be out. And especially going, I was a series regular on a handful of TV shows. I had a good run, did some TV movies, a couple of features, whatever. But then literally moved away, had all these kids. And it's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And to make a very long story short, my husband was really into the reality stuff and understood the power of the platform. And my girlfriends and I were pitching a show about opening a restaurant, and within those meetings became acquainted with the people that did Real Housewives. And then they asked me to be on the show, and I was like, absolutely not. It sounds like a disaster. That'll be the last nail in the coffin that was my career. And I didn't understand really that the landscape of television had completely changed. And also, I still had young kids. And was I really going to be on a set for 17 hours a day? For me personally, not judging anyone else, but no, not at that time. And so, it just ended up being a thing. My husband signed the contracts for me to be on the show, and we fought about it. And then I finally said, fine. If you want me to do it so badly, I'll do it. And he goes, well, you better watch a scene. So I watched this scene of Tamara throwing wine on this other girl, and all this stuff happens. And I start laughing. And Terry comes back in the room and he's like, oh my God, why are you laughing? I thought you'd be like running, screaming from the room. And I go, oh no, I get it. It's like a Christopher Guest movie. It's a satire. I could do that.
That is amazing. Well, and I was saying, so everybody knows your husband is, of course, botched with Paul Nassif. And they've
Yes.
been friends, I think, since y'all been married, since like 1999, I was reading. So Paul was married to Adrian. And I think
Mhm.
Adrian started filming Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I think like a year before you or 2 years before you joined the season.
I think was it even longer before that? I'm not sure, but I do know I had watched Beverly Hills because Adrian was on it because we knew Paul and
Yes.
Adrian before they got married.
Sadie was always, she was like, why didn't she do Beverly Hills? Why did she choose to do Orange County? Was there ever
I
like
think
a,
that was your biggest thing. I bet with fans, I remember when you first came on the scene, it seemed like because of your husband and who you were associated with at that time, it was like, she needs to be on Beverly Hills. Why is she not on Beverly Hills? Was
Well, it's
that
a good point,
something?
but think about it this way. First of all, I lived in Orange County. We were
Yeah.
actually living in Orange County. And also, I think it's the dichotomy of, having me in this group, people like that sort of thing. Not everyone has to be exactly the same. And I think it was fun. I was the only brunette, in this sea of blonde girls. I was, from New York. So I had this New York edge. I was fancy, like all these things that maybe some of these girls at that time when I got hired weren't. And so it was fun to see all of that. People have been asking for the last year or two if I'm going to move because we moved back to Los Angeles a year ago and we live in Beverly Hills. I bought a house there and whatnot. Um, the answer is who knows what is going to be. I now like Terry's practice is still in Orange County. His mom lives there. We tried to buy a house down there. We ended up buying this Beverly Hills house. We'll probably end up with a house down there eventually. Who knows? I never know. But this is a friend group of mine. I also have friends, good friends on the Beverly Hills franchise, and obviously friends off these franchises. But it's hard to say where I'm going to end up. But I'm just really grateful for the platform and for what it's done for my family. And, I don't know. We'll see where they put me.
Well, I mean, I think you are beyond spectacular. And I know something with Eric and I, when we first started this podcast, we had a talk being like, okay, are we ready to share? I'm an open book, but Eric's always kind of been an actor and,
Right.
shows a little. And he was like, I was like, are we going to do this? And if we do it, we have to do it authentically and actually share who we are. Were you nervous about that part of it? Being like, did you and Terry have a talk being like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to fully share? Or did you kind of see yourself throughout the seasons really opening up and understanding, like, if I'm going to really show Heather, I need to really show Heather?
I think there's two stages of this. When I first joined the show, I was terrified because, I was an actor
Oh, yeah.
and you didn't do reality and it was the kiss of death and all these things. And, and I remember saying to Terry, I go, oh God, what are they going to find out about me? And he goes, what have you done? And I said, I don't know. He's like, well, you've never been arrested. I'm like, no. He's like, well, you weren't like a hooker. I'm like, no. And I go, but like in high school, it was the 80s, we did drugs. He goes, really? You have to go back to high school for there? I'm
thank
like,
God
okay.
for no social media and all that back then.
I
Amen.
know.
Now that's why
But
I would be terrified. But
right. But also a good lesson we teach our children. So at that time, we had those conversations. But to Terry, it was such a lark. He's a doctor. For him to be on TV is funny. And he would, push my buttons. And yeah, we fought sometimes and whatever. We had one really bad year, which I would say is probably the worst year of our marriage in general. And I promise you, if Terry was sitting here, he doesn't agree with me. He doesn't think it was that bad. He never, I thought, whatever. We were fighting on the show. He had just gotten botched and he was feeling himself, and
Oh, of course.
I felt like I was on this show that was very difficult for me to do. And he wasn't helping me at all. Like he was just always teasing me on the show and not letting me be me. And, so we were bumping heads about that a lot. And we really fought that year. And I think after that, I probably relaxed into the whole thing a bit more, but I really was very worried when I first joined it. Like, how am I going to be perceived? What's my mother going to say? What are my friends going to say? It was a very difficult thing for me to do. Now, by the end, by my first 5-year stint, 5-season stint, I really, relaxed into it. And I felt like I was very much me, whether you liked it or not. When I left, the question was, why did I come back?
Yes.
Because I was gone. I was gone for 4 seasons, but it equated to 5 years. So it was literally a decade from when I had started. And they called me and I laughed. I'm like, why would I ever go back? I got off the show really well, didn't burn any bridges, still working with NBC Universal. Terry and I had done other shows with them, and he and I had written 3 books together, and we had like another show, what all this stuff we were doing. So the question is, why go back? And I thought, you know what? I've got these 4 kids. They're different genders, different sexualities. We have a very normal family. And if we could show our very normal family and start conversations in other people's families, that would be a really great way to use this platform for good. Because I know that there's people out there that are like, oh, she's a fame whore. She just needs to be famous. Or, oh, it's the money. It's not the money. I have news for you. It's not
I
the
was
money.
about to say,
Yeah.
if anybody's seen a reality TV contract, when they first start, it's not as fun as people think it is.
You guys, I am stopped all the time and I get the same question. What boots do you wear? Well, I'll tell you right now, it's an easy answer and it's always going to be the same. Tecovas. They are the comfiest boot, the best looking boot, and they last the longest. I've tried them all, trust me. There's amazing boots out there, but Tecovas takes it to the next level. Whether you're a cowboy, a longtime rancher, or a first-time boot buyer, Tecovas has the answer for you. I personally shop in the Fort Worth Stockyards location, but you can go online to tecovas.com, Tecovas.com, and check out all the boots for yourself. You won't be sorry, trust me, as a longtime boot wearer and somebody who likes comfort on their feet as much as they like to look nice, Tecovas is the answer. So don't waste any more time. Get to tecovas.com, buy you a pair, and then show me them online so we can compare. Because I've got most of them, but I want to see you guys rocking them too. You'll thank me later. Tecovas.com. Don't waste another second.
Okay, listen up. If you follow me or Eric on Instagram, you've probably heard about Clinic Concierge, serving Fort Worth, Dallas, Austin, and Houston. This dedicated team of family nurse practitioners, PAs, and MDs bring comprehensive healthcare right to your doorstep. You heard me, to your doorstep. Whether it's the kids or parents who are under the weather, they can treat your whole family in one visit, offering testing, prescriptions, and more. Plus, they provide IV hydration and fantastic cosmetic services, including Botox, microneedling, CO2 lifts, and much more. All from the comfort of your home. Did we mention there's no membership fees? They truly care about their patients. For more information, visit clinicconcierge.com. And don't forget to mention Glamour and Grit on your intake form for $50 off your first appointment. That's clinicconcierge.com to learn more and book your first appointment.
Oh, please. I was paid, and you guys will get this, but I was paid for my whole first season less than I make in one episode of scripted television.
Isn't that
insane.
crazy? And you're probably putting in more work with the reality TV than you are the scripted.
It's a lot of work.
How long is it, like, the filming process for, like, an episode? And is it structured? Is it, like, I know nothing about unscripted in terms of, like, production.
Right.
How is an episode? Do you get a shooting script? Is there, like, are your
call sheet.
locations all prepped before? Like, how does it work, and how long does it take to actually get an episode in the can?
Okay, so all reality shows are a little bit different, but I'll tell you how Housewives works. So there's a call sheet, not for us.
Okay.
Some of us who are actors, like Garcelle and Lisa Rinna, like, will joke. We'll be like, ladies, there's a call sheet. There's a time. Let's all show you. It's
Hair
always
makeup. Let's go.
the people that show up on time are the people that are actors. That's all you need to know right there.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
But there's a call sheet for the crew that we don't see, obviously. And what happens at Housewives is you have a season of principal photography. So it's about 3.5 months. Now, on our particular show, we have 3 crews. Not every show does, but we have 3 crews. So we have 3 crews that shoot 6 days a week.
Wow. And then
Think
they could
about
just knock on
the
your door and be like,
content.
all right, we're here to shoot right now. And you guys are just, like, unexpected.
No, and it's not like the real world where there's hidden cameras, places, or Big Brother. It's not like that. it's definitely appointment shooting, but it's more like, hey, what are you up to this week? Okay, well, I'm taking the kids to the dentist on Tuesday and I have a business meeting on Wednesday and I'm having lunch with so and so. Okay, great. And that's how they start to form the schedule. Now, it is a television show, so to a certain extent, obviously it does have to be produced in a way. I mean, I think by this amount of seasons, 100 seasons of Real Housewives across the board. Our season is the 100th season of Real Housewives, which is
That is
crazy.
mind-blowing.
Mind blowing.
It's
Talk
our
about a
18th
hit.
season. I know. And so, everyone knows we're going to go on a trip, right? We have parties, we get together. So for that point, I mean, it's produced, but there is no script. It is not scripted. No one's telling you what to do. And I think people that say it was the editing, I think that's a lot of crap too. There's certainly things that don't get shown because the algorithm is, for every 30 hours we film or so, 20 minutes makes it to the air. So they literally just can't show everything. So what might be important to you or like a piece of information that made you feel a certain way, it's not germane to the story. They don't show it. You feel like, I wish they'd shown that because that's why I
That
felt this way.
explains everything.
But that's what the reunion is for.
Can you ever stop and be like, I didn't mean to say what I just said. Please don't put that in the edit. Or
No.
it's like what comes out, what happens, you have no say at that moment if they can use it or not.
You have no say.
That is,
Wow.
and I know we're diving in so much to reality TV right now, but I know I'm a little bit more sensitive to in the hate like people get online and things like that. I feel like Tamara Lover, she's a great example. And I've watched every Real Housewives, every single episode, every season since the very, very beginning when I
Which
wasn't even
means
allowed.
I've had to watch most of
Everything.
it because if I want to spend time with her
I'm
watching
so
television,
sorry,
it's
Eric.
going to be
Yeah.
that.
It's going to
So I'm there too.
Is it hard when you watch somebody exactly like Tamara that kind of, there's a sense on most shows, a loyalty or kind of like a group where it seems like a lot of flip-flop, where you go from Shannon and her being best friends. And then does that make you nervous sometimes when you're hanging out like off filming and things like that? Like, I can't actually tell you the things I want to tell you. Or I can't, is that hard sometimes, the authentic?
Let's be honest, Saini. You could think about your friend group right now, and there are things you would not tell all of them.
It's true. Yes.
Right? So I think Tinks, Tinks.
Of course.
Okay, so Tinks has this thing about men like box theory where she puts people in boxes and it's a whole thing. But I think about the same thing with girlfriends. It's like, who your go-to people are for certain things. There are people that I would bare my soul to and tell them absolutely anything. And I know there would be no judgment, no repercussions, and it would not be repeated. I wouldn't tell that stuff to absolutely everyone. There's other people that are such fun acquaintances that I adore and am there for them and all those kinds of things, but they're not in that box. Like I wouldn't tell them those kinds of things. And there's some people you have to actually be careful with what kind of information you give them, especially in a weak moment, because it could be used against you. So is that true on our show? Yes. Is that true in real life? 100%. It's a good life lesson.
Yeah, and it's the hardest thing, I think, part of me to watch, especially after I had met you two. And I've gotten to know like Kyle Richards, and you meet these people as people, and you are the kindest, sweet, so genuine. Your marriage is like, y'all love each other. And so when you just watch on the show, sometimes you're like, you don't know them. You don't know them like I know them. And I met you one time, and I've talked to you throughout the years. And that's, I think, the most frustrating, especially as a viewer, because it seems though some seasons there's like an aim at somebody. Some seasons usually revolve around kind of like, we're going to go after that person. And usually they say, Eric, it's like when they have a newbie, they have a great first season and they always come after him the second season. It's kind of like the algorithm of Housewives sometimes. I know way too much.
Well, otherwise,
I
if they come out from season one, they're not going to come back,
yeah.
right? So it's like
they give them always a great first season.
No, and you want the audience to get to know them too. But it's like, Eric, it's like you being worried about sort of breaking the fourth wall and letting people get to know you because you're an actor, right?
Right.
So back in the day, before I had my kids, people would come up to me and they'd be like, "Hey, I love your show. I love your character." And now it's completely different. Now it's like, "Oh, how's Max doing at school?" It's she still have the
Mm.
cat. It's like things like that. But I think it's more than just being on a reality show. I think it's where our culture is now and how it's an interesting. I'm curious how you guys feel about this because you are opening yourselves up. You're both actors. There are. I remember the old school of thought used to be like from a Brad Pitt standpoint, like maybe that kind of actor. Well, I keep myself back here because if you know me too well, you won't be able to suspend disbelief when you're seeing me play characters. But I think the flip side of that is also it humanizes you. And I feel like when we like you, don't we like you more no matter who you're playing? How do you guys feel about that?
It's interesting because, like, for me, it's kind of a safety blanket because I'm almost, hiding behind these characters that they've fallen in love with. So it gives me a sense of like, okay, I still have my thing going on that they, aren't involved with and aren't, but they still feel like they know me so well through a character. But it still gives me that sense of comfort knowing that I've got that
Distance.
distant, like that thing between us that's actually not who they think it is. And that's been, something that I've leaned on throughout, the years of doing this industry. But now that
And then
we've-
I came and crashed it.
well, she's always brought me out of my shell though. Like from day one. Like I'm much more reserved. I'm much more like, don't open up and show myself to a lot of people. Whereas she comes in the room, she lights it up. No one can leave there without remembering her. I'm kind of the exact opposite. And so it's been really, I didn't even know it, but like this has almost been like therapy for me doing this podcast and putting ourselves out there and actually being me to the public as opposed to just hiding behind these characters. And I've actually really, really enjoyed that. And it's been really refreshing and really nice. And we live in we live in Fort Worth, Texas, where Sandy's from. And there's such an amazing support here. And everybody's just, so gracious and supportive of everything we have going on. So that's helped a lot. I don't know if I'd feel the same way in LA. I'm not sure.
But what's interesting though is I was the one that's kind of like put us out there and our family out there. And I'm the one that takes it harder. We did a news thing about us and our family, and it was all on the cover of like the cover page of Daily Mail. Bizarre, bonkers. And I remember it like affected me so much. And I was the one, Eric was like, okay, like didn't even think twice about it. And it was so weird
Right.
that like I think because I wasn't used to being that kind of actor where you get people talking about you and all of that, it's now that's what's taken me to learn it. I'm like, oh my gosh, people are going to have opinions about us. Like, I wasn't ready for that. I was always going to be like, oh, we're great. Like, we're so nice. Like, what are they going to say about us? Oh my goodness. Like, they'll find something and they will dissect it to the nth degree. So it's been interesting being that part of it, even though I was the one that wanted to open us up to the world. I'm now learning what happens when you do that too.
Because we're all naive. We think like it was like me saying, "Oh God, what will they find out about me?" It's like nothing. You didn't do anything. You're fine. But when you are responsible for every single thing that comes out of your mouth, we all say stupid things. We all make mistakes. We all trip. We all have blunders. We all say things that later we go, oh, why did I say that? Why did I make that comment? Or things you don't even realize you've said. And then you have to watch it back and go, oh, crap.
Oh,
I don't even remember doing that or saying that. It's tough.
Well, especially nowadays with the times too. Times are very different. So we're seeing, especially with this Gen Z, and I bet you feel with your children, we have Molly Morgan and Mick who are just 4 and 2, but I know his half-sisters are in college and they correct all like things you don't even think about. And it's this whole culture is changing too. I think that's been so interesting is what you say now. And I feel like it's been super cool to be able to learn from this younger generation as well. And what's interesting with all of us is it's all on TV or it's all on, Twitter or it's all on. So it's just learning. I feel like especially millennials where this new world is going and what's
Wait till you
acceptable and what's not.
It's so true. Wait till your kids realize you're famous.
I can't even oh.
Yeah, no comprehension of any of that right now. It's like she's 4, so she's just now understanding that like we're actors, but doesn't really fully even understand what that means yet, you know?
Yeah, but doesn't she go crazy with the minion voice?
Oh, she loves her voices.
Yeah,
yes.
she loves it, but I don't think she even thinks about she then copies them. I think she thinks she just does it too. Where I'm like, oh my gosh, if you actually knew. And Gabby's Dollhouse is the #1 children's show on Netflix.
Right.
And could care less. And all of her friends are dying. And I'm like,
how did you guys, because I mean, your kids are more grown up than ours.
Yeah.
And it just seems like you have such an incredible family dynamic with so much support and so much love. And it's like, what do you, if you had advice for us being young parents who kids are still young, what would be your advice to harvest and try to, in my mind, you have the goals in terms of relationship and family. And that's exactly what I want for Sandy and I. So I'm like, can you give me any advice, or how did you make this happen for y'all?
Yeah. I mean, we're lucky. Let's start there. Luck and hard work. But I think, I grew up in this very 1950s household where no one talked about anything and everything was kind of swept under the rug. And it was just me and my sister. And I didn't want a family like that. I wanted a family that had great relationships and could talk about absolutely anything. And there was no taboo subjects. And I met Terry, and he came from a family that, multiple marriages from his mom and his dad. There was no stability. And I don't even think Terry knew he was looking for all of that at the time, but I think he was craving it. And so the family that we have built is really just based on a lot of communication and trust and very open conversations. We have talked to our kids about everything since they were born. No question has been left unanswered if they had it. I mean, age appropriately,
Of
obviously,
course.
but really communicating with them. And I would say the best advice I could give you is to listen to your kids, because I think also as parents, we want to teach them and give them the life lessons and tell them our stories and all of that. And they really just want to be heard.
Oh, that is so. And now that we're speaking of your kids, if you don't mind, you wrote on Today, a Today article, kids are so fluid, they're still figuring themselves out. That's why I don't like labels, and I want to leave them room to grow. And you have 3 children, 3 out of your 4 are in the LGBTQ community, Q plus community. How is that, is nurturing that, especially with all different parts of the community and labels? And now we're seeing we just had Rumor Willison talking about the scale and spectrum of things as kids. It kind of, I feel like, I hate to say it, back in our day, it was gay, straight.
Right.
Then you added bisexual in. Now, so I feel like you've been such a great, I know you have a wine company that 100% profits go towards that, which is
Equality Vines, right?
Yeah, it goes to family equality, which is all about helping families become families.
That's the coolest concept
I know.
and thing I've ever heard in my life. I remember when I was reading up on you, I was like, "What? Absolutely incredible!"
I know.
I do want to talk about that, but I'm going to let you
But
finish.
yeah, how was that for you? And learning how to, like you said, listen too. And that's something, especially with kids now, we're going to be having those conversations and teaching our kids and what we should teach our kids in the sense if they start asking questions. How has that been for you, if you don't mind me asking, navigating and learning? Because I feel like as your family, you've put on a platform for people like us to really learn. And I feel like it's been such a beautiful thing.
Thank you for saying that. That is why I went back to the show, because when they called me to come back, I was like, I don't need to do it for this, or this. Why am I going back? I'm going back because maybe we can use this platform to start conversations in other people's families. And look, on the show this year, which hasn't aired yet, I throw this amazing event for that wine, for family equality. I'm presenting at the GLAAD Awards, all these things that give visibility and show our incredibly normal family. Now, the tricky part is walking the line between showing your family and keeping it open and modeling for other families so they can start talking about these things and protecting your kids and allowing them to tell their own stories. And the kids are very fluid these days, and pronouns change and things change. And and when I say those things, I don't mean like, oh, this one's gay, but is going to change their mind and become straight. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, you know, the way terminology changes and the way people identify in particular changes and all these subtleties that I don't want my kids to have labels on them until they really figure out what that label is or what they want it to be. And if they want to change that label, that's okay too, in any direction, you know? But I think that just again, being open with your kids, answering their questions, and really is that they understand, and the children really do inherently understand all of this these days, that everything is okay and it's all biology.
And that's what's been such an interesting thing, especially for Eric and I, is obviously we are actors and we are and we've always been so open with everything. And so with our kids too, I don't even think twice about it. But then you also live in Texas or live in other places where everybody's family does their own thing. So it's such an interesting thing that Eric and I have also talked about. It's like, oh, we're going to have to explain this. And then most of the time, like Momo, I think our 4-year-old saw two mommies and didn't think twice about it. And like their private school has multiple parents that are the same genders and not even questions asked. What's sad, it's more other parents that have children really they're evolving. And it is amazing seeing this.
Exactly. It's the parents. That's the problem that the only problem I've run into over the years is parents, not the kids.
Yeah.
And did you and Terry have an open discussion, the two of you, about like, okay, we need to make sure we're on the same page here. And no matter what our kids come to us with, we have to be accepting, we have to be open to listening. And was it or did you guys just kind of muddle through and figure it all out as you went?
We never had to have that conversation because we're just not like that. It was just, we have just always been like you guys, obviously being an actor, I've been exposed for many years of everyone of all different, traveled and been exposed to people from all different genders and sexualities and all kinds of things. And it's always been very normal, for us. But, we lived in Orange County, which is very conservative and maybe not dissimilar to Texas. And so there's those challenges. But between the two of us, it's always been like, he's a doctor, it's biology. Your eyes are blue, you're this, you're that, you're whatever. It's just all so normal. We never had to sit down and go, hey, let's just make sure we're going to be good with our kids. It's like, here's our kids. They talk to us. And look, because we have such open communication with our children, there was never like this big, hey, mom and dad, I need to tell you something. There was never that because there was always conversations.
Right.
I think with Max, didn't you find out she was bisexual? She posted something, Instagram, and had the flag behind her. And that's like the way, and I love that, like.
That's not how she told us.
Okay.
But that's how she told the world.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had said to her, she and I had already had multiple conversations about bisexuality and being fluid and all these different things and whatever. So we had talked for, a couple of years about it at that point. And she had talked to me like, what do you think about making a statement? Or what do you think about putting it on Instagram? I go, look, this is your life. And you're a teenager and these things stay with you. So I always say, think twice before you post something, but you're also allowed to be figuring yourself out. And I don't feel like you should be hiding yourself either.
Oh.
So, I'm going to like throw this in your court, go, you do what makes you feel good, but think about it. But then whatever you decide, you decide. So after that conversation, I came home one day and I like still had my bag over my arm and Max goes, Mom, do you see my post? And I'm like, no, I'll look at it. And then like I forgot, I didn't even call my mom to tell her she was posting something.
Totally. Like,
Because-
it'd be like, you forget it's like a pregnancy and announcement in a sense, like such a big deal.
but
But
it was
even
so
you already know.
It was so normal. Yeah. It was like,
Totally.
whatever.
And then I also love that she, you handle how you want to handle it. She's got a podcast, she's got a book, like
Oh,
she is living her life and
superstar.
owning just who she is and what life is like for her at this stage in her life at this stage. And I think that is just so inspiring to so many young individuals today. I can't wait to be able to have those conversations with our kids of like, you gotta, think it through,
Be
but
you.
just be you. Be you and
Yeah,
own
it's
it.
really cool. And when they get older, I got to tell you, like you guys are in a great stage. And I really loved all the kid ages, honestly. I love the baby stage. I hated actually 15 months to 3. That was terrible. But once they hit 3, I was totally in love again. But I have loved all of the stages. But I have to tell you, my twins are about to be 21 and Kat's about to be 18. Ace is going to be 14. This more adult version of your children is the coolest thing ever.
Oh, I like can't wait. I mean, I can wait, but I hear there's
Yes.
something so magical about, and even being a parent, like me and my mom's relationship, such a different relationship. Just as like you're realizing
Yeah.
they're humans too, and that they're learning and you're learning, and it's so much more connection, which I feel like my mom and I have now in my 30s. But I feel like these kids are having it so much younger than we had it. I feel like we're seeing kids understanding that, we make mistakes and we're learning and we're growing. And I think as like even my mom said that, like postpartum depression, like people didn't talk about any of that. And now we're all able, like it's not like nobody wants that, but it's so normal. Like when you hear somebody say that, it's like, oh, I had it too, or my best friend had. I mean, it's so common and more comfortable. And I think what you doing the same thing with the LGBTQ plus, it's like the more people talk about it, it normalizes what's already normal.
I also think, to your point, it's really important that you're honest with your kids and that they understand, when you're sad or when you've made a mistake, you have to apologize to your kids when you're wrong. Because trust me, we all do things that, that we say, later we go, why did I say that to them? It's so important because it humanizes you to them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't even. And do you feel like, so what you said earlier is when people come up to you, are you seeing when fans come up to you and people that love your family so much, are you seeing the conversations change?
Mm-hmm,
I bet
100%.
instead of like getting a picture or just like, how can I handle this as a parent? Or even I bet as a child coming to you, I think there is something safe about seeing a mom that's accepting. I mean, that's what I always told Eric. Like I knew my best friend's brother was gay before she did or her parents. And I never told her, like it was our thing. And she thanked me, 10 years later being like, thank you so much for my brother being able to have you. And to have that safe space. So has that been really cool, kind of being a safe space for people to go to?
Oh, totally. So when Max put that post up years ago, it was in the pandemic. We were just flooded with messages, like a lot of support and love, but there were hundreds of tragic, terrible, my child took their own life, I'm estranged from my child, my parent, all those messages. And that's why when they asked me to come back, I was like, all right, maybe we could be a little helpful here. So yeah, those conversations have all completely changed. So when I run into people out in the world, it is a very different conversation. And even people that don't identify in this community and don't have kids in this community will come up to me and talk to me about how good it makes them feel, about the modeling of families being able to see this, about how it's just been able to open up conversations in general in their family. Isn't that amazing?
Oh,
I don't know that I handled all that properly, but I did the best I could. I think also being a parent, we're all going to make mistakes and not do it all exactly perfectly. And you got to kind of just like give yourself a little grace in those moments. Like he's good now. He survived it. We all survived Roblox. He still likes gaming, but maybe he'll make a career out of it.
Yeah, make some money out. Well,
Which you can. So, I mean, and a lot.
and I always say
Unbelievable.
this to Eric too. I'm like, no matter how great of a job we do, they're going to blame us for something. So we might
they're
as well
gonna go to therapy
try.
for something.
Yes, we might as well try our best and just hope for. No, you are such an amazing, especially I like, we are seeing these different conversations in the world. And I love people that are so open because I've always been just exactly an open book and I'm trying and I'm learning and it's so cool. Was that another personal question? Was it harder for you? And especially I've slipped up before is pronouns. Is learning,
No.
especially once somebody comes to you or a child comes to you, immediately are you able to change your like mindset and everything like that? Is there a way, like a book that you read knowing, or is it just that was it? I already knew. Because I know for sometimes that would be hard. I think like getting a pronoun wrong is like they, them, especially. Like, was that different for you, especially if you've called somebody a certain pronoun, immediately being able to change it?
Not really. It's funny. My sister flipped her names in college, her first name to her middle name. And like, I never skipped a beat with it.
See, and that
I don't know why that's true. And I'm not really sure I have like a reason for that. I think that when someone tells you something and it's really important to them, I'm not saying I've never slipped up with anyone, but I really like from the moment I was told something, to me, the respectful thing was to make it work.
definitely. And I always feel like it sounds so silly, but our daughter's name is Molly Morgan and people call her Molly. And I'm like, that's not her name. It's Molly Morgan. It's a double name.
It's true Texas double namer.
I know. So for me, even the it's so important. It's like, it's common
I get
sense.
that.
It's like, that's her name. And it's
Right.
like, that has to be, in my mind, like, especially pronouns, that's her pronouns. That's her name. Like, don't get it.
Like if her name was Anne Marie, you wouldn't call her Anne.
No, it's
Right.
Anne
Or
Marie.
Yeah, exactly.
And like we've said this over and over. The only people that ever get it wrong are adults.
Oh, the kids. The kids never do.
2 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Molly Morgan will never say just Molly. They know it's Molly Morgan.
But what bugs me about that is sometimes people, okay, just need time.
Mhm.
That's fine. Especially when they're used to calling someone something for a long time. Okay, I understand that. But I think also it becomes a selfish thing that it makes it about them rather than the person that's telling you what they need.
Mhm.
I mean, if someone gets married and changes their last name, do they mess that up?
No, it's so
Exactly.
Because that's acceptable to you, then fuck off.
Yeah.
No, I think that's such a, and I wanted to ask you that question because I think that's such a beautiful thing too. And I think everybody's, especially older generations, I think that would be something that they ask you is learning how to navigate that. Or even, I think is saying as an adult, we make mistakes. And like, oh, I am so sorry. Like realizing exactly what it's important to somebody. If you do slip, saying, I am so sorry. That was my
own it.
Own it.
Instead of just, oh, whatever, get over it. Yeah. Well, yes, own it. Apologize. Yes, I agree with
And
that.
I think people are like, that's how I am, is I think you've got to learn how to own up to your mistakes. And I think instead of people, we see, especially with our generation, a split in a sense of people taking on different things, just being like, oh shit, I fucked up. And that's okay. And that's, I think, even the cancel culture, what we're seeing even more beautiful is the people are the ones that are saying, shit, I messed up, are the ones people are more accepting of. You're going to get some hate for a second, but then people are like, okay, they're human. I think it's such a beautiful thing. And I really, that's what I was most excited because Eric and I are such big supporters of the LGBTQ plus community talking to you because you're watching another parent. And I think as young people, we have a 4 and 2-year-old watching somebody like you navigate a new world and acceptance and community. It's just been so beautiful.
Well, remember this too. I mean, whether it's LGBTQ or whether it's anything, when you have a child that deviates from what society considers the norm, you got to pay a little more attention.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that literally like gave me goosebumps too.
No, but it's true. I mean, you have to, and to hear it from someone we admire so much, it's just a reminder. And I'm just so grateful for you to have spread your wisdom on us today. And every single word you're saying, we are hanging on
I
to
know,
by
I
like
really-
tooth and nail, just because
guys
of
are so
how
sweet.
much
No,
what we think about you and your husband.
Well, and I was going to ask you really quick because we end the show kind of with a little shtick at the end. But
Okay.
as successful, y'all been married since
20,
1999.
25 years, right?
It's yes, in December 7th, D-Day. That's when we met. That was our blind date. It'll be 28 years.
28 years. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I need to know advice on that because especially I feel like we met so young and you're just growing up together. What is the ticket? How do we make this happen?
Well, my joke is always separate bathrooms, but it's not a joke. You really do. Everyone needs their own toilet. But truthfully, it's to date each other. Like my husband, he puts me above. I mean, he would say it if he was sitting here. He puts me above the kids, above everything. Like I am number one to him. To me, your children are so important. They're the most important things in your world while they're growing up. But you cannot lose sight of the fact that you had a relationship before they came around and you're going to be with this person when they leave. And if you think you are going to neglect, as exhausted as you are through certain years and stressed, and, sometimes it's the kids, sometimes it's the money, sometimes it's, jobs, whatever it is. But if you think you're going to ignore that relationship and pick it back up when they leave, that ain't happening. That has to be, you have to date your spouse. You have to learn how to fight. You got to have sex and you got to schedule it, as unromantic as that sounds, if you're not having it, because, it's like, we say like work begets work and meetings sex begets sex. Like you go, oh, right. We like that. We should do that more often. You have to take trips together. I think if there's one thing that we could have done better is I wish that we had traveled more alone when the kids were young, because I think at that time we felt like we didn't have anyone great to leave them with. So I was worried and I felt guilty. Oh, can we leave them with like a nanny for 4 or 5 days? Is that weird? Because we didn't have family around. But I wish we had done that more. But as soon as we had the infrastructure to travel, we did. And I'm not saying we would leave for a month, but even going away for a night, 2 nights, go have hotel sex and, overdrink a little and just connect and sit by the pool or take a hike or whatever it is. You must do that.
No, that is the best advice too, because I know even for Eric and I, like what you said is, well, I always call it mommy daddy time. And we'll look at each other and we're like, we got to do this more often because you're so tired. Or we have a 2 and a 4-year-old in bed with us every night.
Yeah, figuring out the logistics of how to make any of that work is so difficult, let alone, it is. So I kind of like the idea of like, we're setting an appointment date.
Yeah, and
we're
putting it in the
make
calendar.
the appointment, and that's what it is.
In our fam cal.
Oh, yeah.
That's so great.
Okay, so we end every. Oh, do you have another question?
No,
Okay.
I was going to say about.
You go ahead and explain it.
All right, I will. And I do. I love seeing your podcast back there. Let's talk, because I listened to your episode with Nikki Glazer, and it's
so
so
good,
so great. And I just saw they just announced that she's going to be hosting the Golden Globes. So I'm like,
oh, really?
Oh, which I think is the smartest
thing. The Golden
thing.
Globes or the Emmys?
The Golden Globe.
Okay.
Which
But
they needed that.
That's why. Yeah. And that's why you always say yes, because who knew? Like she did that roast.
The greatest thing she could have ever done.
Changed her life.
All these doors.
Mhm.
Yep.
So cool. So I love that you had her on. You guys, everyone should go listen to it. So we end every episode and we like to ask our guests what their glamour and their grit is right now. So something that is glamorous in their life, making them feel amazing, and then the grit that happens to also be happening that you're dealing with. And it could be something of the day or the week or the month or the year.
Cool. I'm going to start with the grit, if that's okay. So we end on a positive.
Yes.
Okay. So the grit, which I literally am telling you guys, because you will get this, is that I have been in such flux for the last couple of years, sort of like figuring out, like, I want to do scripted again. And I don't often, I vacillate between like wanting to put it out in the world so it becomes a thing and not wanting to say things because, what if it doesn't happen? Imposter syndrome, like all that kind of stuff. So am I am in the middle of like I've got these unscripted show things that I have been pitching and the scripted thing and like how this business is so slow and so frustrating and like I'm just feel like I'm in it and I am having those moments of having to talk myself off the ledge and give myself those pep talks and all that. So that would be my grit right now.
That is the definition of grit.
And that's
too.
so real because it's like, look, she's accomplished so much and she's got this amazing platform. Anyone would be lucky to work or have her involved in a series or anything like that. And she's still, I mean, you're fighting through it. Like that's such reality.
Yeah, and it's like fish got to swim, right? Like I'm grateful for all these things that I've done and what it's done for me, but I still, I want to still do what I do.
Yeah, and it's not handed to you. Like,
no.
like it just shows you like nothing is handed to you. Like this is the fact that it's hard for even somebody like yourself. It just shows you how hard this actually is for everyone.
It's all hard, man.
Yeah.
It's all hard. And then the glamour. So
Well, you look
my son
glamorous.
I know.
You look amazing.
I look terrible, but thank you. No, the glamour is that my son is going, did I tell you this, is going abroad?
No.
So my son is going, so the twins are juniors in college this year. And my son is going to Italy first semester and my daughter's going to France second semester. And at first I was like, why don't you coordinate? And then I was like, no, this is so much better. I get to go to Europe all year.
Oh.
So he's leaving on Sunday and Terry and I are going with him. And so he has to be dropped off in Milan for orientation. And so I was like, well, it's too hot in Milan. I'm like, let's go to the south of France. So the three of us are going to the south of France and we're going to hang out and dance on tables and shop and all the things. And then we're going to drop him off. And then Terry and I are going to go to Paris for a couple of days.
Yes. Yes.
That's like my dream come true. It's like with one of our children, have a little special time and then be like, bye, we're going to go together.
And can I tell you something else that I didn't say before, but I really highly recommend is alone trips with your kids. Not yet. They're too young. They won't remember. But like when they get to be like 9, 10, like saying you take them, it could be a night. Doesn't have to be a week-long trip, 2 nights, whatever. Like take one to, like I remember one time I took Ace to Catalina for 2 nights and we did the ropes courses and we went parasail, like just the two of us. It is the best thing. You don't have to do it every week, every month, like maybe every other year, something like that. But it is the best core memory you can give them, that focus time, one-on-one, with just that kid. It's the greatest thing.
I'm so excited
I
for
know,
that.
me too.
I'm like thinking of all these things right now. I'm taking my son to go see some
Well, I adore
Coltrane.
the two of you.
Thank you.
I hope we get to work together someday.
Yes.
Truly.
And you are amazing. Anytime you're in Texas, let us know.
I
Because you
will.
got to stay at the Bowie house. Did you hear? Like we've had so many housewives. Sutton, my mom and Sutton met at the national championship,
Sutton.
and she was just here. They're all coming. Kyle was just here. So you got to come stay at the Bowie house. It's so bougie. You'd love
Okay.
it.
I will.
It is so
I
much.
love
We
it.
love you so. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much
Heather.
for
We
taking
really
the time.
appreciate
We
your time.
appreciate you so much.
Thank you guys so much. And honestly, continued success.
Same to you. And keep us always in the
Thank
back
you.
of your mind, and we'll always keep saying yes.
Okay. I love
Love
it.
you.
You guys have to come on my show next time.
Amen.
Can't wait.
Love you, sister.
Thanks, Heather. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Wow. That was like such an amazing.
I think I learned more in that 1 hour than I have in the last 4 years of parenting.
No, and she's such a beautiful person. And my biggest thing as a parent is I just want to always be accepting and
100%.
learning how this new generation is growing and understanding that you're going to get people of different opinions and hate or non-understanding of people and being okay with that too.
And she just like reminds me like the cliche of like people in the limelight having a successful relationship, let alone people in the limelight having a successful relationship with their children cannot be possible. It is possible. They don't even think about it. They didn't set any rules or open discussion. They were like, we're accepting, we're loving, we know who we are, and we're going to raise a great family, and life's going to be perfect. And it is.
Amen.
It's that simple.
It's amazing. Oh my gosh.
That was great.
See you, audience, on Friday.
See you Friday. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Glamour.
Grit. Glamour.
Grit.